a couple movies in a day again. Because I couldn't just do one. I might end up doing another one after this. Who knows? But this one is Gladiator with Russell Crowe. And how would it get Best Picture? Before its release, if it had never been seen. This was a DreamWorks Pictures movie. It came out in 2000. It starred Russell Crowe, Joaquin Phoenix, Tommy Flanagan, Richard Harris. Yeah, it had Richard Harris in it. One of his final movies was this movie. He died, and I'd like to say 2002. Richard Harris died in 2002, 2 years after this movie finished production and released. Like, yeah, R.I.P. definitely. So, Russell Crowe plays an exiled general who lost his wife and son to the mercy of the emperor, which wasn't really mercy, and is asked to fight as a gladiator in the Colosseum. The character's name is Maximus Decimus Meridius. As you know from the movie quote, all over Instagram, okay? That came from this movie. Maximus Decimus Meridius. Father to a slain son, and husband to a slain wife. I will have my vengeance. Or whatever he says. I can closely quote this movie. Like, not to the effect where I can quote Braveheart, but this is one of the more quotable ones. The score in this one is by Hans Zimmer, which would later go on to write the score for The Last Samurai, King Arthur, The Da Vinci Code, Angels and Demons, Man of Steel, and quite a few other scores. Oh yeah, the Dark Knight trilogy, which will come up later in the channel. overall, this movie is a good movie with a good cast and good music. It got a sequel, but I don't think Ridley Scott can do sequels as well as other directors can. Like, the sequel does make references to this movie. I'm not going to ruin the sequel for you. But, like, I'm just going to recommend that you watch the sequel to this movie and see what you think. But if you haven't seen this movie first, watch this movie first, and then watch the sequel. And now I'll talk about the rating and the runtime, of course. As I always do in my videos, this movie is another R-rated movie, but it was rated R for violence, and it's 2 hours and 35 minutes long, so not nearly as long as Troy or Braveheart. It's actually shorter than Troy and Braveheart. I bought this movie when I bought Troy and Braveheart. Actually, yeah, those are good movies. Yeah, Joaquin Phoenix acts the Emperor in this movie. Well, technically Richard Harris acts the Emperor. I'm not going to say much because you haven't seen it, but his character dies, and then Joaquin Phoenix walks in and takes over as the Emperor. Because he had a lust for power. And of course, yes, this movie has a pretty... Well, I think it's a happy ending. My mom calls it a messed up ending. Because it involves death. But I'm more like it's a melancholy ending. Sort of a melancholy ending. Like, there's some sadness to it. But I actually feel happy for his character because he gets to see his wife and his son, who were killed by some people. I think it's happy. She thinks it's sad. She doesn't know the movie as well as I do either. She just knows that she knows the music better than the movie. Yep. I'm not blaming her. Gladiator is one of the best movies, and its sequel, Gladiator 2, is a pretty good movie. I actually had the pleasure of seeing Gladiator 2 in theaters. It was a pretty cool movie. The runtime comes close, the director's the same. The cast is a little bit different. Minus one character that rolls over from this movie into 2. And yes, you'll enjoy this movie if you watch it or rent it or buy it. I'd just say buy it if you can. If you can't, then well, rent it, watch it, or find somewhere you can stream it for free, because it's just a beautiful movie.